Welcome to the WWE podcast, guys. We're going to get started in just a minute. And I have Ashley Mann with me this week, and we covered everything that's going on in WWE, including the rumors that could fans actually be back in attendance this week, Otis and Mandy, Braun versus Bray, Apollo Crews' push, Drew versus Seth, and much, much more. So you're not going to want to miss this one. So stay right here. We're going to get it all started right after this. Hey guys, not because you need to, but because you would want to. Improve your weight room and bedroom performance with the all-new Vaso Flux for Men. It's a natural dietary supplement. This unique blend of barks, roots, herbs, and vitamins is nature's way of keeping you in the game. And for under $10, you can order yours today. Just visit Youth Fountain Laboratory at youthfountainlab.com. That's youthfountainlab, all one word, .com. Or call 1-800-853-7856. That's 1-800-853-7856.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Hey guys, welcome to the WWE podcast. It is, Saturday, May 2nd, 2020. And awesome show for you guys. I know I say that a lot, but damn it, I mean it. And we've got Ashley Mann with us this week as we talk about everything that happens in WWE as best we can, right? We don't cover everything possible. I'm sure people out there, oh, you didn't talk about this or that. Okay, well, we can't have a 15-hour show. We need to cut the cord at some point, and this show is a lot about deep diving into certain things, and that's just the way it goes with wrestling. When you're talking to somebody that is as passionate as you are about wrestling, tangents happen, and this is no exception, but we cover a lot of ground here. We really do. We talked about the return of AJ Styles, where he could be placed, who we think could win the Money in the Bank ladder matches, and the presentation of it being in WWE headquarters, Braun versus Bray, what's missing from Braun's character, and the possibility, of course, of fans being in attendance as soon as this Monday. Is that even a possibility? Well, we cover that as well. And we even at the beginning of the show, we talked about the pandemic probably more than some wrestling fans would like. But it's bleeding into our lives so much that it's almost impossible not to talk about. So we do try to wrap it into wrestling as best we can and not talk about personal stories. And I know some of you are like, oh, I don't want to hear about your life. But guess what? I mean, it kind of happens, right? Because that's life. And but we tie it into wrestling as best we can for those of you that are worried that it's all about personal stories. It's not, okay? But this is a really good show with Ashley. Always love having her on. It just is it's a joy, and you'll enjoy this one as we talked about just, my gosh, everything. I think we talked for almost 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me. This is the unofficial WWE podcast as we come to you 7 days a week. I mean, almost every single day there's new content or daily hits or quick hits, as I like to call them, which I haven't done in a while, but I'll get back on the bandwagon with that. And so we really just hopefully overwhelm your feed with audio content as you and we all get through these crazy days together. So, all right, well, not going to really banter around too much. You guys know where you can follow me at the WWE Podcast. I also want to give a quick shout out to Holly, who is our newest patron at patreon.com/WWE Podcast. So, Holly, thanks so much for joining us, and it's a pleasure. Enjoy all of your ad-free content. I think you'll be pleased with how much is there. There's really just a overwhelming amount of content there. So, thank you so much. And I just want to also very quickly get to a question from Sharon, who's a longtime listener of the show. So he says, "Hey Matt, I like to hear your podcast on these weird times." Very weird, I agree. "I have a comment about a topic that you talked about in several podcasts about why in order to have an A+ match today, you need to have air moves and the fact you don't like it. I think it's because WWE management just wants that most of their fans will be children and teens, which is why we have children's shows and movies with WWE stars. This is why we had WWE shows with cartoons, which was WWE Camp, the newest 2K game, of which WWE 2K is not actually happening this year, for those that didn't pay attention. That's happening next year. They're going to do a 2-year development on that. Anyway, he says, also, this is why they are calling every wrestler like a superhero, the Queen, the Big Dog. We even had a 10-year-old tag team champion. Yeah, now you're just getting me riled up, Sharon. I mean, like, you're just, that heats me up. But I think also, lots of times, this is why they have holes in the plot and not giving enough effort to have continuity. I mean, this is how children in movies go a lot of times. Less logic, more fantasy world. Although they do have those content that fits more to grown-ups like Lashley, Rusev, Lana, but mostly they don't care about fans that are above 18. So, yeah, thank you, Sharon. Yes, that's a good way to put it. It's a lot of visual and not a lot of substance. Like, they're more concerned about how things look rather than if they make sense. That's a very childish way to produce something. If you're doing a children's show, great, because kids don't care about storylines and plot holes. But this is exactly what WWE does, more often than not. When we complain about things, is that they just do things to do things because they look cool, but don't have any reasoning behind doing it. Right? And that's why a lot of the matches also on a micro scale, not just the storyline as a big whole, but the matches that get us through the story also are reflective of just cool moves, what's counters, let's do whatever we can, 16 super kicks and 14 suicide dives and a couple of moonsaults with a 450 splash to end it. I mean, it's the plausibility of these matches today that people deem 5-star matches are absolutely asinine, and don't tell me plausibility doesn't matter. Okay, plausibility matters. So I agree. Now you're just getting me heated up. But thank you, Sharon, for the question. It's much appreciated. So, all right, let's get to Ashley and myself as we discuss all the big topics happening in WWE. I will be back for your Raw review on Tuesday, unless there's a quick hits in between, which, hey, maybe there will be. Maybe there will be. It's pretty cool because I have a little lapel mic that sticks in my iPhone and I can record from there. But if it's warranted, I'll do a quick hits. If not, I will be talking to you guys on Tuesday for the Raw review. And then we're back on normal schedule next week. So looking forward to talking with everybody and hoping you're staying safe. We'll talk soon. Well, it's time for your weekend review with Ashley Mann, and I'm really glad to have her back because there's a lot of things I want to talk about with her this week, namely Florida's possible decision to allow fans back into sporting events. I want to get to Otis and Mandy, of course, the Money in the Bank at WWE headquarters, Sheamus appears to be on a collision course with Jeff Hardy, much more, Apollo Crews, who has been skyrocketed over the last 3 weeks inexplicably, and a whole lot more. So, Ashley, it's great to have you back. Thank you for coming on.
It's so great to be back, Mac. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I mean, again, I'm so glad you're able to be here because there are a lot of things that again, we always say this every time, but 3 weeks just flies by and it's like, oh my God, this happened, and we haven't got a chance to talk. And really, the first thing I want to ask you about is, and this is very quickly, and I'm not going to give much of my opinions because people have heard it many, many times. So I just wanted your quick take on the whole 40-plus releases that happened on April 15th. I know it's a couple of weeks ago now, but you haven't been on the show in a while, and now recently added was Curtis Axel to this list of doom. Were you shocked by this? Were you, when looking at the list of names that came out a couple of weeks ago, were you surprised to see anybody there? Or when you look at it, did the majority of them go, yeah, that makes sense?
It's one of those things that's obviously horrible no matter when it happens, right? But especially now, and especially that the field that we love, being wrestling, they can't easily go to an AEW or an Impact. I'm sure eventually, once everything gets even closer to normal, that things will start looking up and they may get scooped up at different companies. But, and I hate to say that I wasn't surprised by some of the names that were on there, or rather the majority of them, because I don't want to lessen anyone. But for instance, like the clones. I didn't even realize they were still on the roster. No disrespect. It's just certain people that you kind of look at and be like, yeah, I guess that makes sense if you're looking to make cuts for business purposes or whatever you equate it to be. Then, yeah, I guess it unfortunately makes sense. But, you know, WWE, especially WWE, like, they always say never. So, yeah, it sucks, and this may have put a bad taste in the mouth for a lot of the people who were released. So they may not want to come right back, even if they do have the opportunity to. But, you know, a lot of guys getting released, it was a blessing in disguise. I mean, take Drew McIntyre for instance. So I think, you know, now may be a good time, so at least they can be cut and use up the bulk of their 90-day non-compete clause during this downtime when they technically couldn't be doing anything anyway. So at least in my head, that's kind of a good way to look at it. But yeah, you know, it sucks. I'm not going to lie. Like, a lot of us have been affected, but it sucks even more so when the field that you specialize in, you can't even go out and look for a new job even if you wanted to. So yeah, I definitely feel for everyone. But at the end of the day, look, I'm not going to pretend to know WWE's finances. I like to think I know a little bit of it, but at the end of the day, I don't have their portfolio, their binder, nothing. So I can't say, did it make sense? Are they really saving $4 million a month in revenue because of it? Did they really need to because of the bigger picture? I don't know. I'm just going to say it makes sense for me because I've personally been affected by it. I know people who have been affected by it. So, you know, it's just one of those unfortunate things, but I don't think it's the last straw for any of these guys, to say the least.
So out of this whole list, do you have any potential names on there that you think we realistically could see in AEW? Again, I'm sure that everyone's thinking, oh, they're all going to go to AEW. And AEW right now, they're kind of the new cool kid on the block. They're not just going to open up the doors to any and everyone. They can be very picky if they want to be. So if you were to look at this list, do you have a couple of names on there that you would say, oh, I could definitely see this person or this person in AEW?
I'd have to pull up the exact list to be 100% sure, but I think the one that jumps out to me was EC3, especially seeing what he's done in about 2 weeks it's been since the releases, just how he's kind of changed his character and gone more of an edgier and darker route. I think more so, I think he'll be at the top, and I think Rusev may be at the top for AEW, but as I say that, I could definitely see Rusev going to New Japan first and kind of hanging out over there for maybe 6 months to a year, because I just see him being a perfect fit, especially depending on what Lana's contract is with WWE, and if she is determined to stay there or whatever, maybe they debut it in AEW as a duo. But yeah, Rusev, I think, may actually stop at Japan first and then come to AEW maybe a year from now, a year and a half from now. I think with the whole Drake Maverick thing, because there's a lot of speculation whether it was real or not. Of course, I don't know one way or another if it was real to begin with, but I think in my personal opinion, I think it was real, and then he did what he did with the video and got that massive response, and then they changed their mind and re-signed him and then allowed him to continue in the tournament. So I see Drake Maverick staying with them now. But yeah, I guess long story short, I could see EC3 over there, and of course like the OC. But then again, I could see the OC going back to Japan after all this is done too for a while before going to AEW. Just because AEW is so stacked right now too, and they have a lot of their own characters that they need to focus on and develop before they look to hire anyone else. But you gotta think like your Brody Lees and your Matt Hardys got into AEW just in the nick of time.
Exactly. And I think what WWE has done here is really open up the floodgates of possibilities inadvertently to other companies for debuts and for other talents to find themselves and maybe make mega stars out of themselves. I mean, so when you look, especially AEW, which again is the new cool place to be, you still have other places to go, which is great for people in this line of work. You have Ring of Honor, you have Impact, you said New Japan. Of course, there's the independent scene that doesn't pay as well, but it is there. And plus, they are still getting royalty checks as long as their merchandise is on WWE Shop, which will be there until the supply of whatever they have already made is sold. So I don't know how much they're making on royalty checks. So, based on the list of people that I've seen on here, they're probably not making, a living wage on this, but it certainly is something for them to have in the meantime. But there are places to go, and Rusev to me would be at the top of the list. And I know Jim Ross has publicly said he would love to get Rusev, and so I think he's at the top. I think Kurt Angle is not. I think Kurt Angle's days of being an in-ring competitor are over.
Although he could be a good agent for them.
Oh, sure, or a manager. I mean, he could do. He has value right now, but it's not in his body anymore. It's in his brain. So that's where I think they could benefit from being like a road agent or a producer or in creative, something like that. It's a really tough time. It's tough to see this. It affects their families just like it affects any of our families. And you may say, oh, but they're making like $400,000 or $500,000 in some cases. But the fact is, they still have a ton of expenses. They still got hotels. They still got travel. They've got rental cars, they've got food, all these things. And a lot of that
is ate up in taxes alone.
Yep, and the taxes that they don't have to pay until the end of the year. And yeah, boy, tax day, now it's July 15th that it's due. So yeah, it's tough. I know that people look at them as, oh, those poor rich wrestlers. No, not all the wrestlers are rich, and it's not how much you make, it's how much you save anyway. So I don't know. All right, well, any final comments on the release that happened a couple weeks ago?
Nope.
All right. Well, in that case, moving on to the more current product, and we all know that having fans in an arena is sorely missed. I think we are sadly getting used to no fans, and the only way to see fans now is going back on YouTube or the WWE Network, and you really, really miss having a live feeling to that show with fans in attendance to instantly react to whatever is going on. And it's as if the soul of WWE has been taken out, not of their own design. And recently, this past was a couple of days ago, where WWE's Performance Center is based is Florida, and the task force for Florida, for the governor, has recommended that they start allowing sporting events to be attended by fans at a 25% capacity starting May 4th, so in 2 days. Then they'll be moving up to 50% occupancy by May 18th, 2 weeks later. And again, this is the task force for the governor of Florida, who just makes recommendations to the governor, and the governor certainly doesn't have to take this, but I guess my question is, would you want to see a 25% capacity filled arena or a performance center, or is this something you'd rather wait until, if you were WWE, that is, wait until you get the all clear for 100% capacity or at least 75% to see and test the waters to make sure that you're not at the forefront of spreading this disease, even though you got the go ahead, that maybe you get the bad press that some of this came from a wrestling event and somebody attended. It would be really bad press, but maybe if you're WWE, you take the chance. So what are your thoughts on this? Would you do it if you were WWE and Florida allows this?
That's a tough one. That's tough because the business side, the business aspect of it, it's kind of like, well, why wouldn't you, right? Like if you have a product, you're allowed to display your product now and people are allowed to come and view your product and consume it. Why wouldn't you let them, right? Especially since you lost thousands and probably millions of dollars within the past 2 months, we'll say, round up. So on the business side, yeah, especially with ratings being down, like I'm sure that there's a collective of reasons why Vince would want to. Would I do it right away? Probably not. I think I would at least wait a month or two. I'd say I'd probably at least a month. I don't think I would do any type of live show where fans could attend at least until June. Talking about just Florida for now. And I think even then it's just so tricky, right? Because let's say you go with, let's say 250 people. What does that look like? Do they all come in? Do they get tested prior to entry? And then once they get there, let's say I buy my ticket, but then I unknowingly test positive and I can't go in, which is fine. But do I get a refund for that? And if not, I got to go back home and I just wasted my time to get there, my money. There's just so many. And of course, I mean, it sounds crazy to be talking about money, but it kind of is like if you're going back into that aspect, like what does that look like? Like, yeah, whoever the government can say, yeah, this is allowed, or we don't care if you have events up until these qualifications, but even if you do like 250 people in, do they all have to have masks or bandanas or face coverings? Do they all sit 6 feet apart? What does that look like? I don't know. I think right now you just focus on what you know is working. It may not be working to the best potential that it has, but I just say you look at what you have now and you just continue to make that better, and you actually make changes. You actually take a hard look at your product, look at what you're not doing and you could be doing differently, like set wise, camera wise, and just things like that, and then go from there. And then once you get the okay to at least do 50% of a building or something, to at least maybe not 50, like 35, 40, 50%, and then go from there. But I just think it's way too soon. I just think the vast majority of the country is still on lockdown and stay in place orders and things of that nature. So it's just opening the floodgates. And if I was Vince, I wouldn't want my company to potentially have that bad rap, right? Because he spent, the past at least decade trying to shine WWE really nice. So I would hate for something like this to come in and just knock out all that goodwill. So, sorry, long answer short, no, I probably wouldn't right now.
It's a long answer because it's a hard answer. Because if you're WWE, the thing is, the argument for it would be, well, number one, Vince McMahon doesn't usually give a damn. Vince McMahon does normally what Vince McMahon wants to do, and his theory of any publicity is good publicity. Well, I think that would be put to the test if Florida says, "Yep, you're good. Put 25%. You can fill the building 25%." Well, are you really going to gamble 25%, jump on that, and then have some news story come out that you had fans in attendance? WWE jumped on this new eased up lockdown restriction, and then you had fans test positive. And what if they touch a performer, right? I mean, I would assume that they wouldn't be allowed around the barricade. It would just be probably up in the seating area in the performance center, not around ringside, so they wouldn't be able to come close to the announcers and come close to the wrestlers where, inadvertently someone could come in contact. But you're really rolling the dice that you'll be okay. And I think it would be a safer road for WWE to say, hey, I know that the restrictions are loosened. It's 25%, but this is the very first phase. Let everyone else be the guinea pig. Why do we have to be the guinea pig here? The fans already know that we have an empty arena. It doesn't get any worse than that. There's no one here. And the fans, after 7 weeks now, are very used to this, and it's the awkwardness is pretty much gone. So to really potentially jump on this, to only have it blow up and then go back to no fans and have bad press, I wouldn't. Like you said, I'd probably wait till 50%. And after those 2 weeks of other events trying that out and being the guinea pig, if there were positive results, let's learn from what they did in the restrictions of distance. And did they have their fans wear masks, like you said? But what if you came with somebody? Can you sit with them? And if you didn't come with somebody, then you have to distance your group from the other group. There's all these weird logistics you have to think about. Like you said, so my answer is, again, my long answer as yours was, is I think I would wait till 50%, give it a 2-week buffer minimum to see how other results pan out, and then take it from there.
So I'm going to ask you a semi-personal question. You don't have to answer, but let's say you live in Florida and no wife, no kids, so no one else that you have to worry about inside your home. Would you be one of the people to go to the show if you could? Like if they opened up, would you go attend? No?
Me personally,
yeah.
Yes. I would. Number one, because I know the statistics in Florida, and they are much, much, much better than they are here in New York. Like much better than here in New York. And here in New York, it's a terrible transmission rate. It's like 1.1, which means if I have COVID-19, that means I infect 1.1 other people. In Florida, it's well under 1. And they have many, many, many less cases. I mean, New York has almost 400,000 positive tests that have come back. And Florida has is it under like 50 or 60,000? It's a fraction of what is up here. So I would probably go with it. I'd wear a mask. I'd stay the hell away from people, but I would. I mean, and you know what? People are, here's the thing. I don't want to get political, and this is not a right or left thing, but our governor here had said, well, wait a minute, just because you can go out and jeopardize your health, it's about my health too. You can't go out and jeopardize my health. It's, you can do whatever you want with yours, but if you are being, I guess, really irresponsible with wearing a mask and, doing whatever you want, then that's affecting my health. And I'm thinking to myself, for those people that may go to this and give you this argument, if you want to make sure your health is not affected, then do what you're supposed to do. And what I do is not going to affect you. I mean, unless you have somebody come up and spit in your mouth. I mean, like, honestly, I mean, right. So I don't know. So yeah, my answer, I'd probably go, but be very wary with a mask. Would you?
Yeah. I'm just, I hate to say I'm that, I don't want to say I'm that type of person, but like, I would go and I would definitely do my part to say protect it, right? I would even wear gloves if I had to. Like, I would follow every rule that they set up to a T. I would probably go by myself. I would, even if I went with like a friend, I would get my own room. They, I would do everything as best as I could. But yeah, I probably would, because I don't want to say why not, because that's definitely not the response. But it's like, at what point do you go back to normal life, or do you, like how? I don't know. My thing is like, if it's an option, then yeah, do it responsibly. It's like with everything in life, do it responsibly.
Exactly. And yeah, that can be misconstrued a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, so everything, right, exactly, especially in this time. The thing is, like you said, people are starting to lose their minds. I mean, people are already, there's protests across the country from California to New York about reopen. And I get it for a lot of states that really are nowhere near. New York is like the epicenter of just the crap show right now. New York, especially New York City, is just terrible. They have something about 25% of people in New York. 25% of the New York people have the antibodies for this virus, which means they've had it at some point. Mm-hmm. They just took a sample and then, spread it out, of course, to get that 25%. But so New York is just an absolute, what show. And so I get it. People are starting to lose it. People want to get out of their homes. And when do you get out? Like you said, you got to get out at some point. And this whole thing is truly not going to be over until you have a vaccine. It's just not. So,
which I hear it's in the works. I hear there is one in the works that has like a 30% success rate and like shortened the recovery time by like 4 days or something, which is very good.
Hell,
So it's promising,
Exactly. Anything. And you know what? There's also this thing coming out like the herd mentality, or the herd immunity, meaning certain areas, or actually not certain areas of the United States, but other countries are doing the herd immunity, meaning let's just get everyone sick and then get it over with. Your body naturally will create a antibody against it, which is exactly what the vaccine is. And then the virus will just go away because everyone's already had it, and then everyone's immune. Now, of course, if people are going, well, more people are going to die. Yeah, more people probably will die because you're spreading the virus on purpose to just build up an immunity and it goes away. I don't think the U.S. is going to do that. But yeah, the vaccine is the only way this thing is going to go away. And as far as wrestling events, tying it back to wrestling, because I'm getting way off into world news, I don't think WWE would be smart to do this immediately. It would benefit them. They've already got a system in place. They've already got their week to week televisions in place, and they when they have talent show up, they record multiple weeks. So they don't have talent there every single week. They record maybe 2 weeks worth of shows in one shot. So I don't know. I probably would err on the side of caution with WWE. Doesn't mean they will. Vince is, God knows what's in his head, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's still, it's been however long now, but it's still so surreal to even think about that this is life.
That's what it's funny you say that. It's been, God, I've been home since March 17th. That's when it really hit for me. It was St. Patrick's Day.
Me too. 17th.
Yeah.
That's when our gyms closed.
Yep. And that's, so for us, that is the day that everything changed. I mean, we heard about the virus. Oh, it's spreading. Oh, who cares? It's in New York City, whatever.
Well, that's the thing, because it hadn't hit the U.S., right? Like, our mentality was, oh, whatever, it's in China, we're fine, because we're fine,
Why would we think anything else? Majority. No one in their lifetime has ever gone through this. Never, ever.
And then literally, like, I hear like, some dude tested positive, Rudy Gupar, I don't know how to pronounce his name, in the NBA. Then next thing you know, like, life stops. I'm like,
wait a minute, the NBA stopped their season? I'm like, what a bunch of, I'm like, come on, what are you doing? Like, why you stop the entire season? And then things became very clear that this virus had actually been in the United States since the end of November, early December, spreading for 2 months without anyone noticing. So, yeah.
It's like a sci-fi movie.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, all I can think of is, like, I think I told you that, I Am Legend. Like, I think that's what I think of with Will Smith. They cured cancer, but, it also created zombies. So, I don't know. Like you said, though, life is still, it's weird. Like, I think back, and it's just, I don't know, I can't remember what it felt like to not have to worry about, is the person I'm walking by right now have this disease that I'm going to get, and then, it's just crazy. This is going to take a long time. Even if they ease the restrictions, it's going to take a long, long time before all of us are mentally back to where we were, of not being fearful of the person next to you coughing and then you have a virus. It's going to take a long time to get out of people's heads.
Stay right there. The WWE podcast will return after this quick break.
Hey guys. Not because you need to, but because you would want to. Improve your weight room and bedroom performance with the all-new Vaso Flux for Men. It's a natural dietary supplement. This unique blend of barks, roots, herbs, and vitamins is nature's way of keeping you in the game, and for under $10, you can order yours today. Just visit Youth Fountain Laboratory at youthfountainlab.com. That's youthfountainlab, all one word, .com. Or call 1-800-853-7856. That's 1-800-853-7856.
Welcome back to the WWE podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Well, yeah, and real quick before we move on, it's just because like how it does affect everyday life. Like you have to think of things like buffets, like movie theaters, like not just like wrestling and sporting events, but like just everyday little things, like even just regular going to a restaurant. Like how close are the tables? Are you even going to be allowed to dine in? Like at least like down here, like there's been, of course, just like different speculation and just different reports, and a lot of like small like restaurants and businesses aren't able to reopen, and they've already like permanently shut down. So it's just crazy. And Vince McMahon had stated in, I think it was a conference call, that this has probably changed live events as we know it. And my interpretation and takeaway from that was we probably won't ever have a live event schedule again, because it's just not worth the risk. So I think as much as whether you're one of those people who thinks this is just a big scam and blown out of proportion, or you take this 100% seriously, this has changed our life as we know it. Like life will never be as easygoing as it once was, which is so crazy and kind of sad and eerie to think about. But we'll adapt, of course, like it could be so much worse. So I'm thankful at the same time, but it is one of those odd and weird times to be alive for.
And it can really screw with your head too. I mean, yeah. Luckily, like I don't, and we're getting a little personal, but I don't have any anxiety issues generally. I'm not on medication for any anxiety. I don't have depression. I don't have any pre-existing conditions that would be triggered by something like this. But that said, just with this event, and I have no pre-existing conditions that I know of anyway, it really can F with your head, because you feel like a prisoner. And that this isn't, you wake up as like, this is dream. Like, I can't just like go outside. I can't go to a mall. I can't go to the store. I can't and I have to wear a mask everywhere I go. Like, what the F is this? I mean, and you feel like a prisoner, and it can really screw with your head. Plus, you're not supposed to be seeing family members because you may be asymptomatic, and then you give it to your older parents, and then, my God, what happens there. I mean, so it has taken the human psyche and stretched it like to its max, and this is coming from somebody who has no pre-existing conditions. So I can't imagine the people that actually have depression, have anxiety, have anything that may be triggered by some event like this, of not being able to be with people that you love. I mean, this is the biggest event. I don't care. This is bigger than 9/11. This is bigger than any hurricane. This is just insane.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just openly admit it. Yeah, I am someone who has dealt with depression in the past and anxiety. I would probably say my anxiety is probably worse than my depression. And being someone who already had that or dealt with it prior to all this is definitely a weird kind of like wake up call, because it's like one of those things where you kind of feel helpless, but at the same time, like I take comfort in knowing like I didn't cause this. There's nothing that I could have done differently, and what I'm just trying to focus on what I can do to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, like the responsibility thing, right? Like just making sure I'm doing what I should be doing as a citizen, meeting the guidelines, doing whatever, social distance. But yeah, I mean, like for me personally, like I live by myself. And like I was telling one of my friends earlier, like I'm just so thankful I have my 2 dogs, because I couldn't imagine living completely by myself. Like not having another human here is one thing, but like if I didn't have my 2 dogs, I think I would go insane, because like I have the excuse to like go out and take them for walks and stuff like that, right? So that, you know, you just look for little things like that to keep yourself occupied. But man, it's just one of those times where, and to tie back into the wrestling, at the end of the day, like that's why I'm like, you know, should wrestling be happening right now? Should this even be something that we're talking about, like being on TV and still happening on a weekly basis? Should they be opening up, having live events next month or next week or whenever it may happen? I don't know, but at the same token, like I'm thankful that it is there, because wrestling was always there for me in my life. So it would be so weird to be going through all of this and then not have live wrestling either. So that's why I'm super thankful for it. You know what I mean?
Yes, wrestling is it's like an old friend. And, you know,
it's always there.
Yeah, it's just always there. It's a loyal friend that never leaves you. As much as it may annoy you, and you don't agree with what maybe they're saying, it's always there. And I know exactly what you're saying, and that's probably the argument made by management, is that, look, we are essential because we are helping people's mental stability.
Yeah, people like me. Like, I'll say that.
It's true.
Yeah, and it's
true.
Absolutely, yeah. Because it makes me be able to be frustrated about something else that is not so serious.
Yeah. We're just playing in the sandbox here. I mean, we are literally just playing in the sandbox talking wrestling or sports.
Like, I could be mad at Dolph Ziggler for beating Otis or for doing this to Mandy, and it's stupid, you know? Like, at the end of the day, it means nothing in the grand scheme, and that's the great thing about it.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And that's what wrestling is about, is just immersing yourself in a world that you want to care about, you do care about, but you only care about it when you're thinking about it. It doesn't truly matter in your day-to-day life. It's like any other TV show that, you know, you may be watching, and which, by the way, anybody that hasn't watched Ozark, my God, I just got through that with my wife.
Should I start it?
Yes. If you like Breaking Bad, it's kind of like that.
I haven't seen that either.
Oh, God. Okay, then you have your plate full. Ozark is darker than... If you like darker... It's.
Oh, yeah.
I shouldn't say darker like it's about demonic stuff or ghosts or... I mean, you may be in that too, and I love those shows. But it's about just drugs and stuff. I'll leave it at that. So, yeah, it's really, really effing good. And there's only 3 seasons right now, and we won't get a 4th one until... next April. But anyway, yeah, awesome show if you want to watch. So, okay, let's tie this back to wrestling. I mean, this is getting a little bit intense but it's good because, you know, it's nice to be able to talk, and I'm sure the people listening are thinking the same things we're thinking. I mean, because as we've heard a million times, we're all in this together, blah, blah, blah. But we are. I mean, this is something that we will all have as human beings, a shared experience of this time and place in 2020. And I've also recently discovered TikTok. That anybody that cares, I mean, like that app has suddenly just become like a time suck for me. It's just mindless stuff. But this is a shared experience we will never forget, and it has affected. I don't care what the hell you're doing. It has affected anything and everything anyone has ever done. I don't care what profession you're in, what line of work, where you are in the world, it has affected you in some way. All 7 billion of us have been affected by this. And I don't recall anything in the history of the world that has had that big of an impact. Even wars don't affect people. Right. I mean, like the United States has gone to war, you know, like what, 3-4 times in the last 100 years. And, you know, we're like, you know, it's because it happens overseas, right. Or, you know, Pearl Harbor, or, you know, like a Desert Storm, or like, you know, the war in Iraq. Like, okay, we're like, oh man, that's awful, but it doesn't really affect your day-to-day unless you know somebody in the military, you have a son or daughter. Of course, it's a little bit more, but this is the biggest scale I've ever seen, and it probably will ever see, I hope so.
I hope.
Jeez. Okay, let's get into wrestling. I have to ask, on a much, much lighter note as we get into the playing in the sandbox here, WWE is holding their Money in the Bank ladder matches with the men's and the women's ladder match at their headquarters. And as they always love to have their taglines that everyone has to say in their promos, instead of WrestleMania being too big for one night, this is the most unique ladder match in the history of Money in the Bank, whatever. That's their slogan for this one. So they're holding the Money in the Bank ladder matches for both men and women in the building here, and I'm going to hold off on giving my thoughts because I'm nervous, but if you love the Firefly Funhouse and you love the Boneyard match, I'm sure you'll love this one. But what are your thoughts on this? I'm not asking for a prediction, more or less, but what are your thoughts? Do you think this could be a good matches?
Yeah, I do. I'm super excited for it. Because I was one of the people who enjoyed both the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match. And if I recall, I think you weren't too hot on the Firefly Funhouse match, to say the least. But yeah, I was one of the people who was, though. So I am super looking forward to what they do with this. I have heard rumors or reports that the matches happen simultaneously, and that I could see it kind of being cool. Like that I'm kind of iffy on. I kind of want both of them to get their own time respectively. So I'm just going to stick with that theory for now, that is how it's playing out. I see this. I feel like this is going to be really cool. I think it was WWE on Fox's Twitter account sent out a little, I don't know if it was like a survey or a question earlier this week that asked, like, what office would you want to see the superstars go through during the ladder match or whatever. And it's just to know that they have that thought is kind of encouraging. So, and just seeing the little shots that we saw on Friday, just like the little sneak peek of what it even looks like with the ring on top of the roof and everything, it's just super cool. I could definitely see it being completely corny. I think the women's match may have a chance to be a little cornier than the men's if one had to be. But I think they'll both be good in their respective manners. But at the very least, I'm just super excited that they're actually doing something different, and it's not just the standard set up the ladder in the performance center type thing. And then they're actually literally doing something outside of the box and doing something different. But on a selfish note, I am so upset that you have Jeff Hardy back and you do not put him in this match, even if he's not going to win. I'm not advocating that he wins, but man, like, he's right there and you don't include him in any type of way, because just imagine like this crazy that he could come up with in a situation like that. So just to see him coming back literally like 2 days before it's supposed to air and not be included was such a bummer. For me personally, because I'm a huge Jeff Hardy fan. From back when I first started watching wrestling, the Hardy Boys were just like one of the things that really got me into it and kept me hooked. So it's just a personal thing, but yeah, so I'm definitely here for it.
Yeah, that is a bit curious that they didn't put Jeff Hardy, basically the father of modern day ladder matches, in this match. And clearly they have other plans with him and Sheamus. Yeah. And that was actually going to be a topic I was going to talk to you about, but it kind of translates nicely into that, is that Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. I mean, I don't understand Sheamus's beef with Hardy, and furthermore, what he's doing with Cole and being kind of a bully to Cole. I don't get it. I guess he's just being a bully because he's a bad guy. I mean, whatever, fine, I guess I'll go with it. So with Sheamus standing there this past week on SmackDown looking at the monitor, as we all did with Chapter 4 of The Redemption, I think it is. It was like the rise, the fall, the comeback, and the redemption. We had Sheamus just kind of staring at it and saying, Jeff Hardy's going to be here next week, and so will I. Okay, that's very, very clear of where they're going. And you know what? I'm all for this program, because Sheamus taking out the local talent week after week is... I'm fine with establishing him as a monster and building a foundation for him again, and he looks great. I think he's in the best shape of his career, personally. And having him come back and build him towards a bigger opponent, which is Jeff Hardy, I'm good with it. I really am good with it, and I ultimately think Sheamus will probably win this because he seems to be a little bit more of a priority for WWE, especially with Jeff Hardy, who, given the liability of Jeff and how many times he's been arrested, and you think he's done, and then he shows up in a mugshot the next morning. Like, if I was WWE, I'm not saying that he's going to relapse, and I hope he doesn't, but he's too much of a liability to really build around. I mean, Sheamus has been the good soldier. Sheamus has never brought any bad press to WWE as far as I know. So other than being part of the League of Nations, he hasn't really been in any kind of offensive group. But as far as the Money in the Bank ladder match, touching on that quickly, I'm going to go in here with an optimistic view, because if I don't, I will probably slip into a small depression based on, again, the production of these types of matches, which WWE has been probably proudly patting themselves on the back for the feedback that they got from the Boneyard and the Firefly Funhouse, which I won't even go into or lose it, is that they have an opportunity to do this again. And I hope, too, that it's not a dual ladder match with the men and women, because it gets muddy. It gets very, it's hard to follow. It's hard to digest. There's too much going on. And look, they have time to produce and post-produce and edit, which may help. But it also could be a curse if you love or hate post-produced matches, i.e. myself. But this could be, and it could be entertaining, and that's why I'm going to go into this with an optimistic view. And I'm also glad, because I brought this up for weeks, that Daniel Bryan comes out on SmackDown this past week and says, maybe I'll go in there and just take the elevator to the top floor. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I mean, thank God somebody recognized that this building has elevators, and if people are if they had ignored that and just fought up the stairs, like, I could have seen that happening, where there's like an elevator right here, and they're like, nope, we got to fight all the way, up however many floors the headquarters is. I don't know how many floors the headquarters is, 10, 12, I don't know. But I'm glad Daniel Bryan brought that up. I'm like, yeah, I would just kind of sneak away. I'd sneak behind like the desk, and I'd wait till everyone battles. I'd hit the elevator button, sneak in, go in, and I'd climb up the ladder at the top of the building. But anyway, yeah, I'll give it an optimistic view. I will not go in with a negative connotation, and I'll see where it takes us.
Good. Yeah, that's good. And hey, that's all you can do, right? And it could be horrible, but
let me ask this. Well, do you have, I know it's not a prediction show, but I'll just ask you on these two. Do you have a feeling of who may win the men's and women's? Any hunches? I know we haven't fully filled out the men's side, but do you have a hunch as to who could possibly win the men's or women's, or have you not thought that ahead yet?
With the men's, I kind of have a weird feeling that AJ is going to be included somehow on Monday into the match. Because I heard somewhere that he was supposed to be back this Monday. So if that's the case, then I could see AJ winning, just to be that annoying heel, just pestering Drew for who knows how long. If not, I could see Aleister winning, which I guess may be the easy and most obvious choice. Although, like, it would be weird to see him walking around with the briefcase. But I mean, I guess if anyone can make it work, he could somehow make it work. But I don't know, like, and if that's the case, like, if they do go with Aleister, I just hope that they actually put momentum and, like, actually put, like, good story behind him and a good build to the cash-in. And I hope they set it up kind of like the RVD type cash-in. But yeah, so I guess for the men's right now, my early pick would, if AJ is returning and somehow weasels his way in, then AJ. But with the people that are currently announced, I would go with Aleister Black. And then for the women's, I don't know. That thing is a mess.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. I don't know for the women's.
And for the men's, honestly, I was thinking the same thing with AJ Styles. We heard about him coming back. Yeah, I think he'd be a very good heel to carry that around. And honestly, this is a match that is built for heels to win. I mean, right. Because it gives them an opportunity to just walk around and brag that they could take advantage. That's what heels do. They take advantage when it's best for them instead of doing it straight up. If I was to look at, and I don't have it in front of me, a list of everyone, 24 or however many people have won the match, of the baby faces and heels, I would say it would be overwhelmingly heel that have won this match, because it makes sense. It's a match designed for heels to win. So I would probably lean towards AJ Styles. If Aleister Black wins, I'll be surprised, Only because, again, I don't think that's how you want to use Aleister Black in his first championship opportunity, unless he does it straight up. John Cena has done it straight up and lost. So unless he does it in a way that's not backhanded and you're still trying to keep him a babyface, of which I don't even know how he's a babyface. Honestly, the character screams heel to me, but that's another topic. I just don't understand how he's a babyface. I really, really, really don't. I'm finding myself just rooting against him every match. I love his performances. This is not about his in-ring performances, but I just find myself, I'm like, why am I supposed to like this guy? Right? Like, I'm just, why? So to me, he's much more of a natural heel. But if they're trying to keep him babyface, maybe he does it straight up and says, look, I'm giving you 2 weeks notice and cashing this in like John Cena did. That's the only way a babyface can do it.
That's what I see, yeah. If he wins, that's what I see, yeah.
But yeah, the women's, honestly, I don't even have I don't know, because Bayley is just kind of over there doing her thing. Charlotte is on NXT and tearing it up and just dominating.
And it's like Becky hasn't really been on Raw, so it's like the focus is kind of on SmackDown if we're looking at all three women's championships. So it's like I would have said Shayna, but if the focus is on SmackDown, and maybe that's just me, I don't really see Shayna winning now with what they've done with her, or she's less likely in my eyes to win. But then I look at everyone else and I'm like, would I really go with Nia Jax or Asuka? Like, Asuka's been watered down. It's just like,
I'd probably go with Shayna.
I would, but it's like they've done a lot of damage to her already, which is so sad, in my opinion.
But they've been also, and that was another topic as we transition nicely, is Shayna has, over the past few weeks, other than this past week, been just breaking people's arms. She broke, I can't remember the first girl's name, somebody from NXT, and then she broke Sarah Logan's arm, of which we all know what happened to Sarah Logan. And I actually like that. I think that was a great way to get her back into where she needs to be with WWE's eyes of the fans of WWE. And, again, I don't want to go on a rant on this because I did on a previous show a week and a half ago, is how in the hell it's not a disqualification to break somebody's arm, but if you have a hold that you're beyond the 5 count for, you're disqualified. And WWE exploits the fact that that's not a disqualification. It's just that her opponent can't continue. That is the biggest flaw that I've seen that they're actually exposing and using as a reason to try to build Shayna Baszler and really an exposure of the rules of pro wrestling. How is breaking your opponent's arm legal? I mean, it shouldn't be a legal maneuver or an intentional legal action to take. And
something that she's allowed to do on a continuous basis.
Yeah, and then give her the win for it.
Right. Like, and for being technical with it, yeah, you're absolutely right.
No, it's so ridiculous. I mean, give her the loss, because it's not about the wins and losses here. It would be about Shayna just not caring about it and just being there. She just says, "I want to just hurt people,"
which is
like,
cool,
fine,
but
great.
Didn't say that.
Exactly, but they're trying to give her wins and make her this badass. You gotta
and honestly,
pick one.
I'd much rather her want to go on a rampage and not care about the wins and just want to break people's arms than worry about, did I win this? I won this week, I lost. Like BS. Like, no, just break the arm.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Who she is.
Exactly.
Snap her cap.
Like, so I love what they're doing there, but the fact that they're constantly talking about how, her opponent can't continue, so Shayna gets the win. No, that. Stop it. So anyway, but I do love what they're doing with Shayna on that side of it, and there is some damage control to be done, especially after WrestleMania and people losing their minds over that whole thing with losing to Becky Lynch at Mania. And to some degree, I agree. I'm kind of on the fence on it. I can see both sides. I'm not to cop out, but okay. The next thing on my list here I want to talk to you about is Drew McIntyre and Seth. And this program really started with a couple of stomps. After Drew ran through Zelina Vega's group, of which I'll get to that in just a couple of minutes too, he ends up explaining to Drew that he wants to take the burden of being champion and do this for him, for the greater good. Honestly, I am loving this kind of rebuilding of Seth as well, because he took a big loss at Mania and then, of course, gets rewarded for attacking a champion and then getting a championship match, of which Kevin Owens is nowhere to be found. He got the win, but he's not in a championship match. I mean, don't get me started. But having Seth out here explaining to Drew that he wants to carry the burden of being champion it's such a great view into the twisted heel mind of the Messiah, because it shows that he feels that he can carry essentially the cross of being the champion and all the responsibility that comes with it, that he's so delusional that he feels he's doing everyone a greater good by taking the sacrifice himself of the championship that represents that, and feeling that he is the only one that can carry that burden, but also wanting to be champion. It's such a twisted, great view. I love the pacing of this promo. Drew's comeback was good. And having Murphy back, I like that, because that was just suddenly disbanded. That whole group was just like, oh yeah, it's just Seth now, no one else. I'm glad Murphy is back. He doesn't have his first name back, but I'm glad he's back with Seth. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a good program, or a good match. And do I think it's going to go beyond Money in the Bank? Maybe. I'm surprised they went to it this quickly. This to me is a SummerSlam worthy, or even bigger if you build it right. But they went to it now, and it is what it is. So I'm looking forward to this match. I'm looking forward to seeing how he overcomes Murphy and maybe AOP if they're able to return. And this is just it's two professionals in a very good program. At least that's how I view it. Are you liking this so far?
Oh yeah, I am loving it. I love the Messiah character for Seth. I've loved it since the beginning, pretty much. Seth is just meant to be a heel, right? Like, there's so much more freedom that he has, and you can tell that he's more comfortable on the mic as a heel. And why not? If someone's most comfortable in that role, let them be that role, right? So I'm just happy that he's allowed to embrace it, and I just love the progression, and I'm here for it. I agree with you. I am surprised that they went to this right off the bat. Part of me wonders if is it a lack of other opponents? Maybe that they just had no one else lined up for Drew because they didn't want to go right back to Brock, of course. I don't know if they maybe could have thrown Bobby Lashley in there for now, or maybe a Jinder Mahal. They maybe could have brought him back a couple weeks prior. Say what you want about Jinder, and they could have came up, just with their history. They could have done twisted that a number of different ways. But yeah, I don't see this ending at Money in the Bank. I see this being dragged out for maybe 2-3 months. Just pretty much for what I just said, because I don't really know, without any type of shakeup or any other type of returns, at least on the Raw side for the heels, I really don't know who else they have that's believable to go against Drew at this point, because he already faced Andrade and beat him. So, and of course Andrade's the champion, but that's essentially the number 2 heel that you would, or the top heel that you would imagine. But yeah, I think they may have no choice but to drag this out, but I could see them having Drew beat Seth and then move on to something with Jinder for a couple months. What do you think about that?
God. Let me just say this. If they're going to do that with Jinder just to kill time, the sooner the better, because you don't want this in front of a live audience.
Exactly. Get it done and over with. People are already dropping off. So, look, the people who are watching right now are already your diehards, so we're not going anywhere. So you might as well get the whole Jinder thing over with, because it's tempting with him being back, Drew being champion, the history. Like, why not, right? It's not going to be the best thing, but I could see it being okay. Just do that for a couple months until we get through the thick of this, and then go back to Drew and Seth and really put some build into it.
Yes, and boy, Jinder and Drew. Yeah, I know the whole 3MB. Yes, there is something there. It's not a great story, but it's something that is already existing. Yeah, it is, and it's going to take a lot of build for Jinder again. But Jinder just returned, right? I mean, he just returned this past week, so he's got a lot of work to do to build him up to the point where you think that he could be a credible threat to Drew. That's a lot of work. I mean, we all remember what he did with Randy Orton and being WWE champion on SmackDown. Boy, people were losing their minds at that point. I was actually on the side of enjoying him as a heel champion. I think I didn't love it, but it was a nice change of pace. It was shocking when it happened, and we're all going, wait, Jinder effing Mahal? I mean, we were all just like in shock that Jinder Mahal was champion. But he has that history. He has certainly a hell of a physique. He certainly looks like a champion. And there is something to be said for that. And I think you could draw on the past of these two and just do it. If you're going to do it, though, it would be a one-off. You wouldn't drag this out for months. This would be kind of like, okay, a B pay-per-view. Drew needs a bridge to get to his real opponent, which maybe it's a rematch with Brock. As we all know, Brock is on, basically spring vacation until he comes back for his SummerSlam payoff. It's just his schedule. And God bless him. I mean, he's biggest star WWE has, and he is getting paid.
Is he even in the U.S.? Is he in Canada? He may not, because if he's in Canada, he may not even be able to come back until people can fly back in.
I hadn't heard that. I know he has his farm out in like Montana or wherever, right? So
yeah.
To me, that's probably, I picture him just like locked up in a barn, sitting there and doing push-ups or something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that is Brock. He hates
just
people.
Picking up cows and just carrying them across the field.
He isn't even thinking about it. He's not even watching WWE right now. You can bet.
God, no.
It doesn't exist. For him, I don't see Brock coming back maybe till July to build to a SummerSlam pay-per-view.
And he wouldn't want it, right? Like, because something like that, you at least want to put on the back burner for now until you can really put some more steam back into it. Let Drew really embrace his championship reign.
Exactly. That's the thing. And the fans haven't got a chance to really celebrate with him, which is why I do not believe that they're going to take the belt off of Drew before the fans get a chance to embrace with him. Whenever that may be, we all believe it's going to be sometime in 2020 that there are at least again, maybe it's half capacity, 75, maybe even God Almighty, maybe 100%. Who knows? If things really trend in the right direction, that fans need to be in an arena, because it's just such a shame. There have been so many moments over the last 6-7 weeks that you're just like, damn, I would love to hear what a crowd does about this and this and this. And WWE right now is getting a free pass to do whatever they want without any backlash from fans, at least in a live arena format. Now, again, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, like blah, blah, blah. There's all social media, but they don't get that instant reaction from the paying customer at that event that would give you more of an honest review and an honest opinion on what you're doing, because you have paid your hard-earned money to be there, and they're the ones that are investing in your network, your merchandise, and so on. And right now, WWE is getting a pass. Social media keyboard warriors, I mean, you get a general sense. But to me, it's that the thousands of people in attendance every few days that WWE puts on. But so anyway, yeah, back to the Seth and Drew thing, and I just don't believe they're going to take the belt off Drew probably in the next 5 months, 6 months, maybe or as early as SummerSlam. But I would go maybe all the way to the Rumble again. That's how long I would go with it, because I think the fans deserve that opportunity. Drew deserves that opportunity to be in front of a live audience, to feel that embrace, to really celebrate with them. And so anyway, those are my thoughts. Any last thoughts on Drew and Seth?
No, I second everything you just said about Drew. And I hope that first show that we get back, that Drew is the first person that comes out to start the show, just so he can get that first pop. He deserves it, man. And just being the champion, I could be in the wrong, but I feel the good majority of the people on the internet, at least because that's how we have to gauge it by nowadays. I feel like it's a positive response, right? Don't you feel like at least the majority is solid behind Drew right now?
Oh yeah. I really don't know anyone that's not happy. Yeah. I mean, I really don't.
It's just so rare nowadays. Yep. In a world where we agree on nothing, we all love Drew, which I'm so happy for.
Yes. And you know what? I also could see him, as great as he is as a babyface right now, and I love his run, I really enjoyed him as a heel, and I thought he was sorely underutilized as a heel, and I thought he was getting momentum, and he would just, he would get traction and then go off course, get traction, go off course. Eventually, when this love affair with Drew runs out, and it runs out with almost everyone, unless your name is Stone Cold Steve Austin, it runs out, I would love to see him on just a nasty heel tear. And maybe that's not in 2020, probably it's 2021, 2022, but I could see Drew being the top heel in the company. And just the thought, just food for thought. So, okay, on to the next program here, Bray and Strowman. I'll toss it to you. Are you enjoying this? What do you think?
I want to be enjoying it, but I'm not to my fullest potential, I think. Especially with this past Fridays. So full disclosure, I forgot it was Friday, and didn't realize it until 8:30. And I was like, oh, you know what? It's Friday. So I ran to turn on SmackDown. And literally the second I turned it on was the start of the Firefly Funhouse, and Braun was just already standing in the ring. So I don't know what happened prior to that. But the story time was kind of underwhelming to me. That's in this week, and that's the first time that I've ever felt that way that I can remember, at least from a Firefly Funhouse. And it may just be me, but I just feel like they could be selling this and just telling so much more of the story and the back history, and they could be making up how Bray found Braun, like where Braun came from, like why he was considered the black sheep, like. I don't know. I just feel like there's so much meat left out there. I think it's telling that it's Braun versus Bray right now, and not Braun versus The Fiend. So that, unless they change it or unless I just overlooked that, I think that could be a sign that this is being extended. But I would see if that's the case and it says Braun versus Bray, like I believe it was Bray versus Miz. I could see Braun beating Bray in some form, and then it being extended because Bray gets, upset and then calls The Fiend, and then it may get darker at that point. So there may just be, they may be holding on to that backstory for now and until the upcoming weeks play out. But as of right now, I'm just kind of underwhelmed with it. But I'm holding on to hope. But as far as Braun as champion, I don't know. I think I need to see how the Money in the Bank match plays out before I really know how I feel about Braun as champion, if that makes sense.
Yes. That is a key thing you just said, that this is a program right now with Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman, not The Fiend. People need to understand these are characters that are separate, and it's Clark Kent as Bray, and Superman as The Fiend. And right now, it's just Clark Kent versus Braun Strowman. At least that's how it is being billed right now. There's been no real mention of The Fiend. Earlier in the year, The Fiend did attack Braun Strowman, but we're all just forgetting that. And so if Braun Strowman retains, and I believe he will, because I'm of the belief that WrestleMania matches, especially the title matches, need to stick, and then who wins at Mania needs to stick for, I would say minimum of 6 months. Do I see Braun going 6 months with the Universal title? Probably not. He fits the bill as champion, but he's not exciting. Like I look at him as very two-dimensional, and that's disrespecting Braun. No, that's just what I see. He can do things he shouldn't be able to do. Great. He's very athletic for the size that he is. Wonderful. He talks in a big, scary, mean voice that scares kids. Great. Okay, he's the Monster Among Men. We've heard that a million times. He's now the Strowman Express, or whatever weird train shirt he's got that they're trying to market and come up with.
That shirt, dude.
Oh, God. If anybody wears that, burn it. Please.
Who works there? I try not to be negative, but, some of the crap that I've seen on there, just this past week, I'm like, you really? Are we still in middle school?
Yep.
Really? Maybe even elementary school. Some of them are just so bad. It's even if I wanted to support him, I wouldn't buy that.
No.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Him wearing it doesn't make it cooler.
I feel bad for him. And maybe I hear they're supposed to okay it, but at that point it's what are you supposed to do? Say no? But right. Whatever. I know it's not even that big of a deal, but it's what are you supposed to do? Because it's a
moneymaker for him.
Yeah.
The royalty. I get it.
Yeah.
But I would love to know the sales figures of that T-shirt specifically.
Yeah.
And when the hell, number one, when has anyone ever referred to him as a locomotive? Maybe when he's running around the ring, right? And he does his tackle that apparently running around the ring makes you go faster, right? Apparently,
it grinds my gears, because if you think about it, a man, even not taking into account a man his size, a normal human being size, you have to slow down to make that sharp of a turn around a square, a ring post.
Yep.
Come on. If you're going straight forward, hell yeah. But all these sharp turns that you make, man, logistically doesn't make sense.
No, because you physics come into play here. You have to slow down on the turn. You're actually going slower by doing it that way and using more energy than if you just went a straight line in the ring. But whatever. It's the visual. It's the presentation. Fine, whatever.
Cardio-wise, it looks cool. And, like, for a big man his size, like, he's in phenomenal shape. And his cardio is a whole nother level. So nothing against him. It's just, like, hey,
when you put guys his... Yes. No. And when you put guys his size next to him, like Big Show, we've seen Big Show's weight fluctuate all over the damn place. And for
Braun's
what...
has stayed the same and gotten in better shape.
Yep. And that's a credit to Braun. So when I say that Braun's two-dimensional, I don't mean disrespect that he's not a good performer or he's good for marketing. Mm-hmm. I just haven't seen anything beyond, he's a big man and he cuts very average promos. He's not bad. It's just kind of meh. And I would ease up on his big, mean monster voice. It's not his natural speaking voice. I don't need the cartoon voice that he does to talk like a big monster. It takes away from what he's trying to say because it sounds like he's trying to do a voice for like a cartoon or something. And so Braun is, again, he's just two-dimensional. He doesn't excite me as champion. I feel very neutral about it. And at the same token, I don't know if I want to see Bray Wyatt as champion again because I think the first time around I saw him and I go, I don't think he needed it. It was way too soon. The Seth Rollins deal, we all know, was a mitigated disaster. And so I don't know if I want Bray to have it either. I guess the lesser of two evils is to have Braun just retain, have him beat Bray Wyatt, the man, and then at the end of the match, you see the lights go out, the Fiend appears, and you know what the next chapter of this program will be. I mean, I think that's probably the way that this is going to go.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's how it should. And not for nothing, I think that this, once we get to, in my head, I'm just going with that. This is chapter 1 to get to Money in the Bank. And then after Money in the Bank, when the Fiend morphs, when Bray Wyatt morphs into the Fiend, I feel like it's going to be like a chapter 2 type thing. So I just feel like they can use this to have Bray say and go with whatever backstory and history and however they want to stream it up as and say whatever they want, but just have Braun have it be like the like a come to Jesus moment with us and be like, have him just address his past and be like, yeah, this is why I started, blah blah blah, this is where I came from, this is why I wanted to be champion, like, and just express like that not emotional, but like that human side to him. And like just show us another side to him that's not the monster. Like, we know he's a monster. We know he's a monster. Like, you don't have to tell us that. But like, now that he's the champion, just at least for one night, just allow him to let us in.
Nice one.
Yeah. And just like understand why him being champion and him beating Bray could be the career defining moment, maybe more so than WrestleMania was for him, and then just go from there. But I feel like we're so close with Braun, and I feel like this story with Bray could really help get us there and like just find that reason why we need to support him, if you're following.
Yes, because I don't know who Braun Strowman is. Like, beyond that superficial monster gimmick, right? Like you said,
and he has potential.
Yes, and you see glimpses of it, and then he just kind of goes. They go back to the comfort zone with Braun.
Yeah.
They don't ever want to expand because they're afraid of what they've built will be shattered. But the thing is, what they've built will eventually cannibalize itself because it's just so redundant of what we've seen him do and what his promos are like. So if they have him, like you said, maybe a sit-down interview and maybe go through pictures of his childhood of, maybe I was teased in high school for being too big, too tall. I don't know. Just like you said, I don't need a soppy thing with him, holding his mom and giving her a kiss. What I'm saying is, give us the human side of Braun that shows us how he ended up here and why he is the way he is. Because we haven't seen anything beyond he likes to destroy things. He's got a temper. He talks big and mean. We don't know anything else.
Yeah, and why was Bray able to leech onto him back then? Like, why was he so weak that he was able to just be taken under Bray's spell? But now, like, years later, why was he able to break out of it? Like, why did he get morphed and just like engulfed into Bray's world, into the family, and then why was he able to break out? It's simple. You can make up whatever BS story you want. It doesn't even have to be the truth, like, just because we don't know, just like make something up. But like, just, I don't know. I just feel like if you need story and like depth from Braun, this is the time for it.
There's no bigger place he's been in his career than right now.
Yeah.
None. And I have a feeling, as great as all this sounds from us as always, I really would bet my bottom dollar that they're not going to try to take a chance here, and they're going to just stay in the comfort zone of what they've been showing us the Braun Strowman as, and it doesn't connect. I don't feel an emotional. I don't look at him and go, oh man, if he drops the belt, I'm going to be so sad. Like I don't feel that way. I'm just like, oh well, that'll suck for him, but I don't dislike the character. I just don't know enough to be involved emotionally in what he is about. Like you said, how did he get into the Wyatt family, right? How did he disband? Does anybody even remember how he disbanded? It was just kind of like unceremoniously one day he's just out of it, right? Do you remember how he left?
I have no idea.
I just remember that the Wyatt family suddenly just not being there for like a month, and then they were all kind of introduced separately. There was no explanation. So maybe go into that. But yes, give us more from Braun. I don't know. I just don't know if he'll reach his full potential without just branching out and doing something different with him beyond the, oh my God Almighty, the Strowman Express. Now, I mean, please, if I hear Michael Cole next week say that, it might be worse than Boss Time it's Boss Time. Does he have to say that every time? Does he have to say Boss Time every time? And does he have to say Big Dog every time? I mean, I don't know. Okay, moving on here. I've only got a couple more things here. I know we're running a little long, but Otis and Ziggler, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still here for it. I'm still loving it. It's the thing I look forward to on Fridays. When I remember that it's actually Friday. It's like my little, I guess, guilty pleasure, and I'm so here for everything that they're doing with Sonya. I think she, in the past couple weeks, has been the breakout star. They actually let her have a moment and cut a promo. And I like that they didn't go the typical route of her having a crush on Mandy. But they kind of like teased us a bit. Like they kind of like showed her being emotional, and she kind of like showed her range with kind of like feeding into it a little bit. But then they kind of did the complete 180 and just had Sonya. And the stuff that Sonya was saying was right? Like, for instance, with the entrance, it just always ate at me. I just thought it was always so disrespectful. And I look, I know it was never Mandy. It's just production, right? But it was just so disrespectful that you literally have them come out as a tag team, and then you can't even see Sonya because she's all fogged out because the graphics and the effects for Mandy's entrance, which, yeah, it looked cool, but like you can't even see her partner. So that always bothered me since way back in the day. So I'm glad they actually addressed it. And I'm here for the edgier side to Mandy too, and just like the side of her that we saw on Friday. And man, she took a beating. I don't know if you saw the footer that she posted on Twitter, but her leg had a nice little scrape and bruise on it. It was yes, pretty brutal. But I think I was really impressed with Mandy and just like how she took everything, her response to Sonya on the mic, and they were just both strong. And I really liked the difference in the interruption by Sonya. She didn't just walk, like her music didn't just play and then she walked down to the ring and then like instantaneously the match is over. They kind of like played it out, right? And it kind of, not for nothing, made sense. If I'm having a match and someone is sitting there talking on a microphone, like after a while, yeah, I am going to get annoyed and be like, yo, can you shut up? Like, and turn around. So it just kind of made a little bit more sense than the typical route that they normally go. But as far as the Mandy and Otis and Dolph aspect of it, I'm happy that they went with a clean win for Otis this past week, and that Otis is in the match, and I'm happy to see him get his moment. Of course, I don't see him winning right now, but this is a good moment for him and a good step. But I will be interested in seeing how they go back to this weird little love triangle after Money in the Bank. Because is Sonya and Mandy confirmed for the pay-per-view yet, or not officially?
I think it's going to happen next week.
Next week on SmackDown?
Yeah, they'll probably go with it. There hasn't been officially announced that I know of, but that's clearly the road they're going.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Do you see Mandy turning on Otis or anything like that at this point?
Not yet. I think eventually we'll get there to the point where we all thought we would get anyway, which is Mandy just playing Otis. Maybe, but that would kind of really leave the question of, well, why build this up for months and do the backstage footage with the hacker that we still don't know the identity of, and I'm cool with it. I don't need to. But I think it would be very difficult to talk your way out of all of the work that has happened and all of the scenarios that have happened for the payoff of Mandy turning on Otis. Could we get there? Yeah. I mean, WWE is not about making sure details matter. So we could have that happen. But to your point, Sonya has easily been the star of this entire program. Bigger than Dolph, bigger than Ziggler, bigger than Mandy. Sonya has taken this by the throat. And her promo, all of a sudden, the promo she cut last week, I'm sitting there going, where the hell's this been?
Right.
She has, and she's clearly been handcuffed by creative for one-liners or being kind of in the shadow of Mandy's, sexual aura that's around her. And she has been easily, at least up until last week, just kind of been in the shadow of Mandy. She's kind of the sidekick. Mandy is the forefront. She's she's the one that people pay attention to because of the entrance and her beauty, all this kind of stuff, all the superficial stuff. And having her come out and cut the promo she did last week was, I was into every word. I mean, everything she said was true. And then having her turn on her, basically she was going to have her come out and do an apology and then turns on her like 75% of the way through the promo brilliantly and then attacks her. And then this past week, brutally attacking her again. And what they did with the structure of the match, having her come out and throughout the match try to annoy her made sense. And it made Mandy not look like a total doof for, oh, wait, there's entrance music, let me turn, and then I get rolled up for the loss. I mean, that's just usually the formula. So I can't remember the last time they did this where it was like kind of a longer, taunting type of session during the match where eventually it ends to Mandy losing, and Carmella gets the win to get put in the match for the Money in the Bank briefcase. But Mandy, look, this could be the start of something really good for her. I think management saw something in her last week with the way she delivered. And I literally sat there. I'm like, who's this? Like, where the hell has this been the last few years? So props to Mandy, or props to, Mandy too, but really Sonya Deville here, who is the breakout of the last few weeks. And I'm looking forward to more and more from her. Even this past week, her physicality's good. Everything. I mean, I'm really, really digging, and in a good way, really digging Mandy or Sonya Deville, and I think she could be a top heel on SmackDown easily, and she already is.
Yeah, and then depending on what route they go with the women's championship, whether Bayley holds on to it for a few more months or whatever happens after Money in the Bank, after Sonya and Mandy feud and they continue this build with Sonya, I could see her going after the championship after this.
Yeah, we could. I mean, it's possible.
It'll be fresh, if nothing else.
Hell yeah. And all I can think of is imagine if James Ellsworth is at the top of the ladder for the women. Oh, God. I mean,
imagine him at the roof. Like, you finally make it to the roof and he's standing in the ring.
And he just hands the briefcase to Carmella. I would just imagine the outrage. God. Oh my God. If people would I would just like to see it for the pure, just sit back and watch the fire get torched. I mean, just to see what people would do. I would pop for a good 10, 15 minutes. I would be in tears. They'll never do it, no. but especially given the allegations against James Ellsworth over the last year or two, not going to happen. But I certainly would love to see it. But yeah, the SmackDown side, like you said, it's kind of a mess. Even though Bayley's at the top, we all believe that it's eventually going to be Sasha who ends up taking it from her. They're on the slow burn path with these two, with creating tension week after week, eventually to some kind of cracking breaking point that I hope they take their time with. But that seems to be the direction they're headed with Sasha and Bayley. Once again, as these two, I would love to see somebody have a scorecard for how many times these two have turned on each other and gone back over the last 4 years. I'd love it. But yeah, I don't know. So moving on though, I did touch briefly at the beginning of the show about Zelina Vega's group with Austin Theory, Andrade, and Angel Garza. And many people know I have been singing her praises and for many, many weeks. Zelina Vega, who has been just outright outstanding over the last few weeks, getting multiple segments, whether it's an interview or on commentary or at ringside shouting and living and dying with every move. I've just been such a huge fan of her work. And, the only downside I would say, and this is, I don't think this is a far stretch, is having this group come together, newly formed, with Zelina so damn good, only to have Drew be there to use them as sacrificial lambs. It's very hard because up until last week, they were just getting claymored left and right and left and right. And I'm thinking, I love Drew, but I love seeing this group build themselves up. I love Zelina Vega being the spokesperson. I was very conflicted. I'm like, I want to see both. I don't want to see these two at all. Like, get them away from each other. They don't need to be near one another just to have Drew end up laying them all out with Claymore kicks every week. But they went away from that this past week and faced Rey Mysterio and Apollo Crews. So that was good. But what are your thoughts on this newly formed group with Zelina Vega as the head of this newly formed group that has no name yet?
I agree with you. I am here for it. I love Zelina Vega. She is just, like you said, amazing. She has been the star of Monday Night, and she's just, pardon me, one of those rare talents that can do it all. She can talk on the mic. She can go in the ring when she needs to. She's a phenomenal manager. But she just, having her even just at ringside, she just has this aura and just this star presence and feeling about her. Like, having her out there is just like, it just gives that extra feeling and just that extra something out there. For like, especially her, I just love the visual of her and Andrade out there more than just her in the group. I've always been a fan of them for years now. But yeah, man, just the group that they have, like you said, that has no name. I'm here for it. I hope now that Drew has, since Drew has focused now being Seth and Murphy being back, I hope that they kind of distance themselves, the Zelina's group and Drew now, so we don't continue to see them being just demolished by Drew. And I think we will now, and I think that they may go on to have Andrade focus more on being the United States champion and have Theory and Garza focus on being tag team and then go after the Street Profits and just focus on their respective roles. But at least I hope so, because there's a lot of potential there and there's just a lot that they can do. And especially, like we'll continue to say, once the crowd is able to get back in there, I think these guys and Zelina are one of those acts that are going to draw huge heat from the crowd, and just one of those acts that are easy to hate. And like you respect them, but you feel okay with booing them and you actually want to boo them. Cause Zelina is so good at her job, if nothing else. But yeah, they're definitely saving Monday Night Raws for sure.
They are a absolute joy to watch. And it's not just Zelina, who I think honestly her best days are ahead of her, and probably as women's champion one day and having a long run as a heel. I think she'd be great as a manager. I've said this before, but as a women's champion, I think she could do wonders as well. So hopefully they venture into that realm over the next year or two, not just be a manager. And so, and again, Andrade and Angel Garza. I love this whole group, even Austin Theory, who before this guy debuted, many people who probably looked at this goes, who's this guy? And now you're like, oh, that's right. You've seen what he can do. He's been put in a really good place in a group that he fits in very well with. The chemistry's there. He hasn't said anything at all yet, and maybe that's fine. I mean, he doesn't really need to yet, but I would like to hear his mission. Why did he join? Why is he here? What's he doing? Just give me something. And this group right now could be a force to be reckoned with, as long as they stay the hell away from Drew. These two worlds, they're oil and vinegar, right? Or oil and water, rather. Just get them away. They don't need to be near one another. And it looks like they've shifted this past week away. So, the other guy that was in this six-man tag is Apollo Crews. And he has been just kind of got the Jinder Mahal push with a push out of nowhere. And over the last few weeks, especially Byron Saxton, who's losing his mind over Apollo Crews every week, they've really showcased Apollo Crews. And they said, oh, we all know how good he is in the ring. It's potential. And he hasn't been able to capitalize. And they're playing that story. And this past week, he wins the 6-man tag match and then gets cocky behind the scenes in an interview and slaps Andrade. Bit heelish there. He came across very unlikable in that particular segment.
And that slap.
Yeah. Good luck faking that one. That was brutal.
Not at all.
Well, imagine. Oh God, yeah. It looked like he hit him in the ear, and if he did, yikes.
Not again for Andrade.
That was brutal. So they had a great match, and Apollo was ultra talented. To me, his personality is a bit. I don't want to say it's fake. I hate that word, but it seems produced. I don't feel like I know the real true Apollo. I don't think he knows because he hasn't got an opportunity to really showcase it. He ends up losing the match because he couldn't continue because of a knee injury. That's what they're playing. And he then ends up, after all the cockiness and all the athleticism, he's like crying basically in the trainer's room. And I'm like, really? I know they're trying to show sympathy and that they are trying to show that he's a human being and this is as big as opportunity he's ever had and it's been, it's lost. But really, do I need to see the guy that just did a turnabout face of being this cocky, arrogant SOB to, I can't talk right now, I'm basically crying. I mean, I don't know. It did not appeal to me. It did not get me behind Apollo anymore to see him basically crying in the trainer's room. I would have rather had him just back there going angry, kind of a quiet anger about what happened, instead of this basically 180 of how fragile his emotions are. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but what do you think about Apollo Crews' push overall? Are you enjoying it? Are you buying it?
He's kind of one of those wait and see for me as well. I want to, but like you said, there's just something that I can't latch onto yet. But he, for whatever reason, Monday night when he was out there with Andrade, I just felt like he should have a manager because I don't know if he's just not good on the mic, which is why he doesn't really talk that much, or if he's just not strong in that department, which is fine. Not a lot of people are, and I'm sure it's completely nerve-wracking. It's definitely not the easiest thing in the world to do. And a lot of them have actually said wrestling is much easier than giving a promo, but for whatever reason on Monday, I saw him just being aligned with MVP. I just felt like MVP would be a perfect mouthpiece for him. So I kind of hope that they use this little injury route to his knee, maybe give him this week off, and then maybe align him with MVP or someone who can actually talk and give that mission statement for him and or give him explain his next goal or whatever. I don't know. I hope that they do something with him, especially, but they've obviously been utilizing him the past few weeks, so I'd hate just to see them do something with him and then stop out of nowhere. And you obviously have MVP on Raw, whether he's an agent backstage or whatever he may be doing. If MVP is available and it's a good fit, then I see that could potentially be a good pairing.
MVP would be, and I think that fits so well. I mean, MVP, as much as he was talking about how he's no longer wrestling and he wanted to be Drew McIntyre's manager and then he's out there the next week wrestling and now he's I don't know where MVP's at. It seems to be whatever the storyline dictates is what he'll do, and there's no consistency of, are you retired? Or you wanted to be a manager, but you're in-ring competitor? I don't know what he is. He's kind of a hybrid right now, hosting VIP shows, but then wrestling for an opportunity of Money in the Bank. I don't get it. But I think MVP right now is as serviceable as he is in the ring. He's not amazing, but he's fine, I guess. Is a manager, is a mouthpiece. Exactly what you said. Because Apollo seems to be like he needs it. And Apollo he was one of the first guys called up from NXT. I believe he might have been the first from NXT. At least the NXT as we know it today, not the terrible competition style of NXT. But he was one of the first few call-ups from the NXT of the modern era anyway, and he made a big splash, and then he kind of faded into the background with all of his smiling and his great athleticism, but didn't really, as you said, there's nothing there. It's just kind of like generic wrestler A. And give me something. You've got the body, you've got the athleticism, you're smiling. That's all. That's wonderful. But yeah, he needs something there in a mouthpiece, a manager. Yes, you can't understate how important these are. And Zelina Vega is showing you how good a manager can be, how much they can add to that wrestler's character. And so, yes, MVP, nothing better to do for him. I mean, I'd rather see him do that than host VIP lounges every week. So, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And like you said, I mean, in today's landscape, why not? I mean, if MVP can retire this week and then come back and wrestle next week, why not?
Well, whatever. Whatever. Yeah. But I mean, fine. It just seemed. I remember when he was talking to Drew McIntyre, who ended up Claymore kicking him through his couch. That he seemed to be declaring that his in-ring days are over, and he's looking to transition into his new part of his career. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. He'd be a good manager for somebody. And then he's out wrestling for a spot in the Money in the Bank. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I don't know. Like, whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna stick it over that. But one last thing I wanted to get your quick thought on, and then we'll wrap it up. New Day winning the belts again, and this past week they lose to the Forgotten Sons. Clearly, they're trying to make a big impression for the Forgotten Sons, who, again, if you didn't follow them, you probably are like, who are these guys? I like their development so far. They're good in the ring. They're unique. I'm glad that New Day lost here, but I don't need to see New Day with the belts ever again. I just don't. We all know that it's like the Usos having the tag team belts. It's like, honestly, they're so good. Like, who cares? I'm sorry, but we all go, okay, right? It's just, they don't need them. New Day doesn't need it, but we got the Forgotten Sons. Adds depth to the tag team division, of which it's sorely needed on both sides, Raw and SmackDown. So, are you positive? Are you looking forward to the Forgotten Sons maybe eventually getting a title run, or are you okay with New Day keeping the belts? How do you kind of shake out this tag division right now?
My choice would not have been to put the titles back on New Day. I would have left them on Miz and Morrison for now. Because, I mean, ideally, do you want to have a heel versus heel match? No. But if your focus was to get the titles, or to potentially get the titles on to the Forgotten Sons, and you didn't want them to beat a heel team, well, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, they're not in front of fans right now. So it's not like you're going to get a negative reaction in the immediate area. You're not going to get boos, quote, go away heat or anything like that. People aren't going to look, bored with it. Like, now would be the time to do something like that, just quick, get it done and over with, and have them establish themselves as a badass team. And beating the Miz and Morrison, I mean, not that they're like some legitimate tough team, but I mean, you could have just had their reign drawn out a little longer and then beat them. Just because, like you said, the New Day are now 8-time tag team champions, and So like I was saying, I feel like the New Day, the tag team titles were just put back on New Day just to have the Forgotten Sons beat them. Whether that's going to be at Money in the Bank or even next Friday or maybe the week after, I don't know. I'm definitely behind the Forgotten Sons because I feel like you said, we definitely needed depth in the division, but I don't really see the need in putting the titles back on New Day just to have them lose it probably within the next couple of weeks again.
All right, I think that was the thinking, is they wanted to have it heel versus babyface and not heel versus heel because their thought is, who cares if it's heel versus heel? The fact of the matter is, babyface versus babyface happens, and it's not a bad thing every once in a while to pit those two individuals against one another. It doesn't always have to be heel or babyface. Most of the time, yes, because you want to establish antagonist and protagonist. But if the story calls for it and it's not a long-term thing and it's just a temporary bridge to get you to where you want to go for a babyface versus heel, yes, fine with it. But yeah, New Day as tag champs is about as interesting as our daily lives right now. I mean, not much is going on. I mean, so I don't hate it. It's just kind of like, well, whatever. I mean, so All right. Well, Ashley, anything else that we didn't touch on that we did? I'm sure there's details of people like, oh, I want to hear this and this, but we don't want a 12-hour show. So anything that you want to talk about?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything that's going on right now. At least, I'm sure, I mean, like we say, we could wake up tomorrow and things would be completely different. But I think as of right now, we pretty much covered everything that's going on.
Awesome. Well, in that case, I would invite you back in 3 weeks, which is, oh my gosh, what does that put you at? 23rd-ish of May.
Right.
And that'll be post the Money in the Bank. And what is the next pay-per-view? I want to say King of the Ring, but if they don't do King of the Ring every year. It's like every 10 years they do it. And I was like Googling it. If you find it before I do, let me know, because I don't know what the next pay-per-view is in June. Let's see. Pay-per-view schedule as we're typing away here. Let's see here. Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So June, to be announced.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well,
it's like TBA. So maybe it'll be Saudi Arabia. I don't know.
Okay.
No, I honestly don't know. Maybe it's going to be one of those like randomly named pay-per-views like Payback or Great Balls of Fire or like
right out of my mouth.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be one that you just pull out of a hat, right? I mean, everybody put a bunch of adjectives in this hat and we'll pull one out. I mean, it's probably going to be very awkwardly named. But then it's Extreme Rules and then SummerSlam. So, wow, that happened quick.
Jeez.
So, yeah, NXT TakeOver in Boston. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, so then, yeah, we'll be back in on the road to Great Balls of Fire or to be announced, or maybe they'll just leave it TBA. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it'll be like Taboo Tuesday or something, or I don't know. So, yeah, which, my God, I remember that. I don't know whatever really motivated WWE to put a pay-per-view on a Tuesday. I just don't know. But, all right, Ashley, well, thank you so much for coming on. But before I go and you head out here, what is your social media that people can follow you at?
Yeah, it's at ASHMANNS. Feel free to give me a follow. Yeah, and then thank you so much for having me, Matt. It's always a blast, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Absolutely, and maybe in 3 weeks we will have a part of our normal lives back, and we can hope at least, right? So,
yeah, let's hope.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, be safe, take care, and we will talk soon.
Absolutely, you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, not because you need to, but because you would want to. Improve your weight room and bedroom performance with the all-new Vaso Flux for Men. It's a natural dietary supplement. This unique blend of barks, roots, herbs, and vitamins is nature's way of keeping you in the game, and for under $10, you can order yours today. Just visit Youth Fountain Laboratory at youthfountainlab.com. That's youthfountainlab, all one word, .com, or call 1-800-853-7856. That's 1-800-853-7856.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to wwe-podcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.